Laura, hello. Mark, hello. You okay?
Good morning. Yes, fine.
Yeah, we're just waiting for the our social media feeds to go live. Laura, before it goes fully live, I had a catch up with the AHDB and with Mark and Isaac recently. We had a bit of a review, and they said, Max, you're doing really well, and you're really helping to promote the AHDB and the Talking Leaders. But is there something else we could do? Is there like another presenter that you could bring on that would complement you? So Laura, Mark, I want you to. Is it okay if I introduce you to our new presenter?
Go for it.
Here's my new presenter.
See, yeah,
That's
pretty impressive. Yeah, I think you've got the gig. It's very hard for them to say no to that.
So this is Ronnie. Ronnie, say hello to everyone. Right, Ronnie, thank you very much. Yeah, he's one of our new beanstalk dogs. Everyone, say hello to Laura. Laura, say hello to everyone.
Hello, everyone.
We have got the pleasure on Beanstalk Global AHDB Talking Leaders of having Laura Ryan on, talking about building a global network. Mark, before we get going with Laura and having a really deep dive as to what she does and these eclectic, amazing businesses that she's involved with, groups being the likes of the Global Meat Alliance and Meat Business Women, AHDB. Let's sing for our dinner. Mark, could you just tell us about the AHDB and why we need to get everyone signed up, listening to the likes of these broadcasts and getting more involved with the AHDB? Mark, over to you.
Excellent. Thank you, Max. And good morning, everyone. And thank you, Laura, for being on with us today. So the AHDB, we're the Agriculture and Horticulture Development Board. We're a levy board that are there to help support farmers from the four main sectors to better push their businesses forward and help them and strive through the challenges that we're facing. From the part that I play, I look after the AgriLeader program, which the AgriLeader program focuses all around anything to do with people management and the people side of our industry. And Talking Leaders here today, it's getting great individuals such as Laura to just delve a little bit into their world and their lives and some areas of expertise that they've got that maybe could give us and our listeners and watchers a bit of an idea of how to push their business forward.
Excellent, Mark. Thank you. And Laura, we've had some superstars on this program before. We've had people who've walked up Everest. We've had Olympic downhill skiers, but we've never had anyone who has been on the front cover of the Grocer magazine.
No, see, it's not very comparable, unfortunately, with downhill skiing and Everest, but I'll take a little bit of the glory. Thank you very much.
No problem. And everyone, I was just saying to Laura in the green room before we went live that I went round WH Smith's, Tesco's, Asda, Sainsbury's and Bury St Edmunds trying to get a physical copy of the Grocer because our subscription copy for some reason hadn't come in, but they'd all sold out because of Laura. Laura's a sensation in Bury St Edmunds in Suffolk.
I said my mum's driven around the country and bought them all. I think that's the inside track on that one.
Excellent. So guys, let's get this all set up, especially for those on the podcast. We're live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. And we just want to give a bit more of an understanding as to who Laura is and why we're so pleased to have her on today. Laura's an expert in building global networks and driving transformational change across the agri-food sectors, and up until 2019 was Sector Strategy Director for Beef and Lamb Board at the AHDB. She has subsequently grown a global portfolio of work across the meat sector through the launch of Lavenpark, her own consultancy business, which is working with levy boards, governments, and commercial companies to achieve greater success through improved insight and connectivity. And Laura, this is what I really love about you, that you're not just parochial to the UK. You're co-founder of the trailblazing Global Meat Alliance and is also the founder and global chair of Meat Business Women, which has been recognized by the United Nations as one of the solutions to the global sustainable development goals. And Laura, I love what I saw online. Global Meat Alliance, if you just Google that, the headline, they are on a mission to create a positive global narrative for the meat industry by sharing the best insight and developing joint projects to shine their sector in a new light. Meat Business Women, if you look at the site online, the global professional community for women working across the meat industry. So Laura, this feels, and Mark and I've said this before, this feels like everyone has a book in them. Everyone's career is a bit of a book. To me, this feels like you're only halfway through it. Where's this all going, Laura?
Yeah, it's a great question. Thanks for a phenomenal sales pitch there, Max. It makes me sound great. I guess to say where it's going, I need to give a little bit of background of where it's come from to set it in context. So I fell into the meat industry by total accident just over 20 years ago. And I probably still feel a bit of a fraud in the meat industry, to be honest with you, because I've got no agricultural background whatsoever. I haven't even got a pet, so it was very nice to see your new dog, let alone livestock or keeping anything like that alive. So I saw a job advertised at a local catering butcher not far from where I still live, in the northeast of England, a graduate position. And I thought, marketing meat, that'll be easy. I'll give that a go. So along I went. I wasn't probably quite sure about the marketing of meat bit, but I really liked and got on with the owner of the business. And I thought, he's a great guy. We can learn a lot from him. As a kid, I didn't even like going in the butcher's shop, didn't like the smell. So this wasn't a natural alignment for me. But pretty quickly, I got the bug. Loved the industry, loved the pace, loved the challenge. Brilliant. No 2 days were the same. Everything's moving so quickly. People call it out as it is. There was no, let's kick this into the long grass and dig with it next week. It's happening now, and we're sorting it now. And that real tangibility of the sector, I loved. So that's the background. And now, fast forward 20 years, you know, it's phenomenal to be running 3 businesses, two of which are global, as you say, Meat Businesswomen and Global Meat Alliance. Where that goes next, I see those 2 in particular growing as the pre-competitive challenges around the meat industry grow. That's the joy of Global Meat Alliance. We come together in a pre-competitive space to talk about what we can do collectively for the meat industry. And then also Meat Businesswomen. We know the CSR, the ESG agenda, so environment, social governance, is really important for the meat supply chain to demonstrate, and we need to get great talent and to retain great talent into our sector. And some of that needs to be female. So in order to make sure we get that and retain it, then we run Meat Businesswomen. So growing those 2, getting into more countries and getting even more punch behind them would be my answer.
And Laura, the meat sector has received a lot of criticism over recent years, unfounded. What's your remit and that of the Global Meat Alliance and Meat Businesswomen? Are you like the royal family and you just be quiet? We do not engage, or do you feel that the best thing to do is counter? What's your philosophy there, please?
Yeah, so if I give the example for Meat Businesswomen, and we've found it, we've done 2 pieces of global research, one 3 years ago and another one this year, which we actually just launched last month, which is on the website if anyone wants to take a look at it. And it's a basic gender representation report triggered by the UN, and the UN saying, why do the meat industry not know how many women are working within it and what are the enablers and barriers? So we invested in a huge piece of independent research to understand that. And from both that initial research in 2020 and what we released last month, it showed that the meat industry is still somewhat faceless. We are improving, and over the last 3 years, Meat Businesswomen has had some major campaigns, such as the She Looks Like Me campaign. So we know people, particularly women working outside the meat industry, think the meat industry is farming and butchery. There's not a line of sight on the other jobs that exist, be that technical, commercial, marketing, you know, the list goes on and on. So we have put a human face to a lot of those jobs that exist. And we've also done deep dives into some of those jobs that are a little bit more abstract, that people wouldn't think of, to show the people that are doing them. So the importance of role modeling. People want to see someone that looks like them doing that job. So we've done a huge piece of work in that space, as well as putting a human face. So yeah, the meat industry does attract criticism, but I see, particularly over the last 5 years, the meat industry evolving. Meat businesses are telling their story better and being more transparent. And from the GMA perspective, on a global level, meat industry is now coming together and having those macro conversations at an intergovernmental level, which is really important, because if we're not around the table, we know the anti-meat lobby is very well aligned, very well funded, and if we don't come together, then we can easily get picked off.
Yeah, I think it's desperately unfair. There's a lot of comparisons. We've got a broadcast coming up at some point later in the year on air freight, and we got sent over a 24-page document as to what one particular air freight company is looking to do to reduce emissions, and it is amazing what they're looking to do, but they're so badly represented represented, to the point that I had someone in my social circle moaning to me about how we should stop air freight. What good does it do? And they then said, do you want a blueberry? And I said, those blueberries are from Peru. They were air freighted in. And it's sort of the same with the meat sector. And I do think without trying to cross the line, with all the alternatives that are available, the marketing spiel has been to lambast the meat sector, when actually the meat sector does fantastically good things, whether that be in the UK or internationally. But it's always very difficult for our sectors to promote ourselves. Laura, let's ask Mark. Mark, what do you think? You know, definitely from your dairy background, it's so difficult to influence the consumer, isn't it, when so many of the consumers have an urban background rather than an agricultural background? Mark?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. It's a really, really difficult thing to try and do and influence. And how we go about that is learning from people like Laura and trying to break those barriers down.
Yeah, well done. So Laura, network. I'm so sorry. This is going to sound very patronising, but I'm so proud of you that you don't have an agricultural background. I don't either. But the fact that you've been, case in point, you've been so accepted by the sector, and you're making such a success with the likes of Global Meat Alliance and Meat Business Women. But this network element. So the title of today is Building a Global Network. Was that easy to build a global network, Laura?
Again, I suppose, and I said earlier about my career, it was pretty much by accident. So this is probably not great as I talk particularly my consultancy work as a strategic expert. And sometimes some of these founding blocks in my career have come along accidentally. So if we take the Meat Business Women one first, as you said in the intro, I was becoming more senior at AHDB and I got to director level position there. And I was noticing I was the only female on a lot of occasions in the room at senior level meetings with my peers, and particularly in meat related meat and livestock meetings. And then I'd come back up north on a weekend and chat to my mates, and they would say, marketing meat sounds awful. What are you doing that for? And I realised that we had not only had a pipeline issue, there was no other women in the room, and also a reputational issue that we weren't attracting ourselves to female talent. So really, I was wanting to network. I realised that I'd networked probably as hard as I could in my little bubble, and I wanted to reach out to other women. And it's funny you mentioned the front of the grocer there. There's other women on the front of the grocer that I wanted to reach out to and connect with that felt a million miles from my network bubble. And I thought, how do I do that? Where do I find them and have the probably confidence to reach out to them? So I was looking for a networking event. I spoke to a few colleagues and said, is there one? And we pretty quickly realised there wasn't. So I naively booked a room in London and got a speaker along and sent out an email and said, does anyone want to come along and maybe just have a bit of networking and chat about the meat industry? And if you'd said to me then, Max, actually, do you know what? This is going to be the start of a global network, I'd have backed off. I'd have thought, no thanks, I haven't got the time for this. I've got a full-time job, I've got a lot going on. I definitely don't want to be setting that up. But I guess this is my first learning point for today around networking, is start small. It was a small step, it was an initial step, and it felt relatively easy and manageable for me. So what I experienced in that room was a huge amount of passion of other folks that want to come together, that want to talk about their careers, personal development, challenges in the sector, and do that relatively regularly. Then we became established in the UK, then in Ireland, and then in 2019, we expanded into Australia, into New Zealand, and then also I spoke at the United Nations. And each of those steps came really one by one. If you'd given that to me all in 2015, as I said, I'd have said, no, thank you, I can't do it. So no, it probably wasn't the original strategy, but it was and is the right way to go. So it probably wasn't as hard as you maybe think it was, but it's having that, and it's understanding. And I know Mark's a big fan of it, and you watch it as well, Simon Sinek, in terms of understanding your why. This has been my why. This has been something that I'm really passionate about. So some days, you think, oh, this feels a slog. I've got to do my consultancy and I want to drive my business moving forward. But because I'm so passionate about it and it's my why, and it's not just me, I'm surrounded by amazing people, both on our boards and our committees and our community, it pushes it forward. And having that power of the community and a power of a tribe is absolutely phenomenal. So starting small is the first thing.
Yeah, I love the way you present that. I could just, to me, you treat a conversation to the number of people in a village hall up north the same as talking to the United Nations. It's like, yeah, here, this is what I do. Yeah, and so Mark, do you think networking is a dirty word?
No, I don't think it is. And just before we jump onto that question, it's a really good point about not eating the cake all at once and doing it step by step and starting small. Gemma has just asked about the gender balance report, which I think I've Googled rightly. Off of the Meet Business Women, I'll put the link in there to that page, so you can gain the information that you need and have a little flick through the report. But in terms of network, no, I don't think it's a dirty word. They say, what's the coining phrase? Your network's your net worth. We're all built around relationships in a community, and if we can get a group of people together that got a similar interest, then hopefully, like Laura has, you can take on the world.
Yeah, and exactly a couple of points there from Laura's inception of creating that meeting. Look where that's taken Laura. I suppose where I was going at is that we all know those consummate and frankly quite annoying people who are so good at networking that you meet them at an event and you feel like you're the best friend for 2 minutes. They extract all the information out of you. They swap business cards, and then you turn around and they're on to the next one. And they're so good at it. I think probably the best example is Berlusconi. Where am I going to go with this one? So the Italian prime minister president who recently passed away. There's a great story in one of his obituaries that he was the consummate networker. At age 22, he wanted to get this major building construction tender, and he found out that the head of the council was traveling from Milan to Turin, I think it was, on a train, and he managed to befriend the secretary of this individual, found out the train he was going on, found out the seat he was going on, and managed to book the seat opposite him. 2 hours later, Berlusconi was at the bar on the train, drunk as a doodah with this individual, talking about the best restaurants to go to Milan, and Kelso Preti won the contract. But to me, that's such an extreme example. I think some people are a little bit frightened, Laura, of networking, because it's quite a thing to walk up to someone that you don't know and say, hi, I do this. What do you do? Can I sell you something? But Laura, it's not just go back to basics. It's not like that. For the younger generations, especially the students that are dialed in, what would your advice be on a nuts and bolt basis as to how to network and where to network, please?
Yeah, and I think something else to share. I'm not a natural networker. So in terms of, am I really great at networking? I've got better at it over time. And as with a lot of things, it comes with experience and confidence around what it is you're actually doing. But fundamentally, have I been that person at an event that's probably gone and stayed in the toilet a bit too long at the hand basins and thinking, I don't want to go back out there because I don't really know anybody? Yes.
Well done.
So I think it's about being bold and brave, and that would be my second learning. I think when we talk about starting small, that's really important, not only in terms of the steps you're making, but the network that you're reaching out to. I think if you think, gosh, I want this massive network and I want to have an extra 300 people in my zeitgeist, it's not going to happen. And I think it's about starting with a handful of maybe 6, 7, 8 people that you want to bring into your network this year. How are you going to do that? Who do you really admire? And it could be someone totally out of the industry as well. And that's really helpful, rather as we are sometimes as a meat and livestock industry, sometimes a bit terrible at just speaking to ourselves. So it's always good to go out. So I'm very lucky that I've got a strong, what I would class a personal board. And this is what I'd really encourage people to do. But having, and it's very advantageous for me because I run 3 businesses and I'm not sat next to others every day. So if you're a farmer, and you're running your own business, that's really, really hard. So having a personal board is important. And these are people that probably become friends over time, but ones that you can ring up and have a conversation with about, do you know what? I'm thinking about X, Y, and Z. What do you think? What would your advice be? And your example there, Max, about, do you know what? A consummate professional networker comes up to you, gets all the information out of you, and then disappears. My argument would be they're not a great networker, because a good networker is someone that has a conversation with you, listens, and that's really, really important, and is curious, listens to you, and then flip side, you could talk to them about your perceptions of industry, what you're seeing. So being bold and brave, I reached out to a couple of senior CEOs in our industry and said, I would like to spend a couple of hours with you a year. Would it be possible for me to come and see you and be in my personal board or be a mentor to me? And I'm fortunate enough that these people have said yes. So I go and have a sit down with them every so often, and probably the week before I'm writing a list of these are the sort of things that I want to ask them about, and these are the sort of questions. But it's really interesting to me, the questions that they ask me, because wherever you are in an organisation, you're not necessarily cited other things that are happening at the other end of the pipe, wherever it may be. And that's why CEOs love reverse mentoring. They love having conversations with young grads. What are they seeing on the shop floor? What's really impacting them? Because they're sealed away from that a lot of occasions. So being bold and brave, and even if some of those folks come back and say, no, I haven't got the time, that's totally fine. You're going to lose absolutely nothing. And I know it feels scary about, going up and having that conversation face to face. And I think that's the joy of things like social media service on there to say, do you know what? I would really appreciate if I could have a chat with you in the next 8 weeks. Could you let me know when you've got 30 minutes in the next 8 weeks to have a conversation? And starting off slowly and having that hit list. Who's on your personal board? It's like layers of an onion, really. Who are your friends and family? Who are the ones that are keeping you honest? Who do you want on your personal board? Those ones that you want those professional conversations with. And the next layer out, that's probably your wider network. And that's great. And that's attending events that meet business women, that's attending women in food and ag, that's attending AHDB events and a few events and all the rest of it. But they're not necessarily those people that you want to be checking in with every month. So you need to think of the layers of the onion and start small and be bold and brave. And I think it always in the back of your mind, and I notice this probably because I do more coaching with women, they'll say, oh, they're going to say no, they're not going to go for that. 9 times out of 10, they will go for that. And if they don't, you've lost absolutely nothing.
Yeah, well done. I've just had four
Can
people,
I just jump in? I'll just jump in there, Max, quickly.
I've just had 4 people message me saying, I've never heard that expression before of a personal board. What a great example. Mark, go.
I was going to say there's some really good points there that seem to be, and definitely I'm not a natural networker, but I think the bits that have just rung true is have a think of people that align to your why, of why you want to be involved, and get some, so you can get some key bits out of some developments for yourself out of that, but also have an understanding yourself that personal limitations and some which then could wane towards your strengths can help to do that. I suppose my question, Laura, to you is, so we've covered a few points there about building the network and the ingredients to being successful. What about personal brand?
Yeah.
How do you sell yourself in those situations to build these networks?
Yeah. And it's interesting you say that, because this is another thing that's going to push out your comfort zone. At least I found it pushing out stuff out of my comfort zone. The people, fundamentally, and the thing that I would like people to take away from today is people backing people. We all know that. But when you go back to basics, whatever it is you're buying, be it a service, be it a new car, whatever, it's really important that person that you're buying from, and that connection and that trust that you put into somebody. And over time, I've realised it's really important for me to be authentic and to be the real me. And for example, when I was at AHDB, I probably wasn't the real me, but sometimes I would put a lens on because I think, oh gosh, I'm presenting about all this levy that we're collecting, and I shouldn't be the northern me, and I should maybe speak slightly differently, or I over prepare. This is so important. And that's all fine. But actually now I work for myself, I've realised actually that having that level of authenticity, and on times, and I know this is again probably a more female word, but we all have it, that imposter syndrome and that vulnerability to actually show some of that. That is when you're most powerful, when you show your vulnerability. Because if you show your vulnerability and you ring somebody up or you message them and you say, you know what, I just need a bit of help with this. Would you be able to give me X amount of time because I'm not quite sure? I would love to get your thoughts, need your advice. 9 times out of 10, that person will bounce straight back and they'll say, of course, people buy from people and people want to help nice people. So that's the sign. I wouldn't go in it pretending you're something different, pretending you're someone else. It's about maybe I'm still a bit guilty about it, because the advice I'm going to give in a minute, you're going to say, well, is she following that? things as basic as your LinkedIn profile photo, is that a true reflection of the person that you are? And it's interesting, I had this conversation with one of our community not long ago, and she said, oh, do you know what, my LinkedIn photo is a real corporate photo, and I'm not really a corporate person, honestly. I'm actually more of an outdoorsy person. I'm like, well, why aren't you changing that? And then, so it's about making sure that everything that you have, and it makes us feel uncomfortable, out there is a full, true representation of yourself. And it's about using social tools. So people like Amy Burke do this really well, at the IGD. She's brilliant at posting on the socials about what she's up to, and links that back to key learnings. And that can be anything. If you're out on farm, people are fascinated about farming, and me too. You know, what you're doing in your day, just 2 minutes to film it, say what you're up to, and people will engage. So it's authenticity would be my number 3 takeout after start small, be brave and bold, and be authentic.
Yeah, and Tony in the comments has just said, be yourself. You'll be amazing how many doors that will open for you. So thank you for that comment, Tony.
No, I've got a lovely example. I've got a friend I was at Harper Adams with. Other institutions are available, and she's a fantastic farmer, lives by herself. Everything's contracted out, and she has offices that she rents out. And she 2 years ago she felt very, very lonely, and she's talked to a number of her personal board. I love that expression. And I said to her, why start doing some videos? Move it forward to present day. She does a daily video walking her dogs of everything that you see on the farm, and these videos are getting 250 views by 10 o'clock in the morning, and the comments is like 10 15 30 comments, and it's a range of people from agriculture, but also people from her local community. And she's now become a local councillor, and she's now feeling really engaged, and she didn't realize that her route to success, we all hate these things, was actually this, because she can communicate, and she created this own personal brand by what Tony's just said and what Laura's just said and Mark's just said, by being authentic. So but Laura, it's not going to work for everyone. So we've got those examples of the Uber networkers, and I love what you say, that they're not very good at networking, and you've got those people who are potentially really not happy about coming out at all. How do we help those people, Laura? How do we get them to engage with us?
Yeah, and you don't need to go and set up your own networking groups like I have. I think it's just finding your tribe. Where do you feel most comfortable, and where do you get your energy from? Yeah. And this is the thing, you know, whatever work that you do, it can't always be fun. But how do you make it as fun as possible and enjoyable as possible? And who do you have around you after your immediate friends and family that are going to energize you? So that might well be more in social pursuits, or it may well be professional networks, and they probably already exist around you. So I think it's nice to spend a bit of time, and that's one of my other key takeouts. And I can't remember exactly what you said, Max, earlier on. It was in terms of, you know, is networking not a dirty word, but yeah, is it a real? Yeah. Should we really be doing it? I think this is, and it's something that came out of our report in terms of women in particular. We do not dedicate enough time to networking because we've got busy day jobs, probably caring responsibilities on top. Networking feels a bit of a nice to have, not business critical. And I think that's a key learning for us all, is we need to carve out a little bit of time. Now that can be just 2 hours a month. And you can think, right, you know what? I'm going to spend half an hour a week on networking. And to begin with, that might be half an hour looking at LinkedIn to see who I think's great and who I would be interested to have a conversation with. It might be having a look at what local groups are around me, or, do you know what, booking a national conference that I want to go to. Who is my tribe? Who gives me energy? And I'm going to dedicate 2 hours a month to that. And then it may well be I'm going to call and reach out to so many people across the year. I think the bottom line is you've got to have a plan. And it can be really basic like that. But if you start kicking it into the long grass, it isn't going to happen. And remember, that plan can start really small. We're not asking you to go and stand up on a stage and, you know, do something like that. And you might be really great at that. And networks are always looking for great speakers. So if that floats your boat, that's a perfect one to reach out to. But where's your energy coming from? Where's your tribe? If you know where it is already, great, spend more time with it. If you don't know where it is, but make sure you find some time to invest in terms of research.
Yeah, Laura, there's a statement that Mark and Isaac and I've used over these broadcasts, that the better people that we come across, the better leaders, they spend a minimum of 25% of their time thinking. So I think we can put that networking into that thinking pot, that if you're going away, taking time out to network, to attend a meeting, you don't, be curious. You don't know what's going to happen unless you actually go. So I think that, that. What do you think, Mark? That 25%, definitely, we could put the networking element into that.
Yeah, no, definitely, it needs to come on that point. And speaking with one of our previous speakers from the AgriLeader Forum, Jamil Qureshi, who's a performance psychologist, who's put 6 people to world #1. He'll always say that the best people that he's worked with that have achieved those kind of accolades of being #1 in the world are the ones that know when to step back and know when to do things like thinking and networking and building on those things, rather than just being busy fools trying to continually work. And I think it's a bit of a perception thing, Laura, would you say? Like, I think you've touched on it then, that networking, it's just a bit of a jolly, where actually it's not. I know Isaac will always say when we're planning our conference that you should never underestimate the value of a good piss up, which he's referring to. We make sure that the tea and coffee breaks, and we make sure that the areas around the key content, there's enough time for people to link with people.
Definitely. And it's funny with our conferences, people still say, oh, you're off on your jolly, but it's so important to get that energy from others and understand some business insight, and to make those business connections and personal development connections. So definitely make the time, and the time doesn't need to be huge. Everyone's got busy day jobs, and particularly if you're farming, it's mammoth hours. So it starts small.
Okay. Laura, leaders, that's one of the reasons that we're very keen to have the likes of yourself and Olympic skiers and other people available on these type of broadcasts. What and crikey, looking at the news at the moment, we need some decent leaders on the go. What could be done, do you think, to make better leaders in our sectors, and I suppose also in the current world, particularly surrounding developing a network? How can we make better leaders, whether that be people within our team or ourselves? How?
Yeah, and when I think about this, I think about, what do I see good leaders do? And the good leaders that I spend time with, I see them do a couple of things. One of which is be really open when they don't know. And I really like that. When you're in a room with a leader and maybe they're C-suite and there's a conversation going on, and they don't hog that conversation. And if a topic comes up, they say, we don't know, I'm not sure, ask for clarification. Because if they're asking for clarification, that means a lot of other people around the table probably don't know the answer to that question either. But sometimes, and myself included in the past, I probably wouldn't have put my hand up to say, do you know what, I'm not quite sure I understand that. So I think that's really nice and refreshing, not to always, for a leader, not to always think they have to be a subject matter expert, because you can't be. And we're probably lacking a little bit of that at the moment in terms of leadership. If you're talking, more generally, that we've seen people trying to say they have all the answers when they don't necessarily. And I think something else that I use when I'm with leaders is, and I think it's a real cute networking tip, is asking them who in their network that you should be talking to.
Brilliant.
Because these people have amazing networks. Everybody has a different network, and you don't even need to be a leader that you're talking to, but somebody else, who is the one person that I should be talking to in your network? And then that gives you a really easy intro, because they're happy for you to mention their name. Yeah. And if they're that one person that they've mentioned, 9 times out of 10, they're someone that's someone really good that's worth talking to, then I pick up on that. And then you ask that person, oh, right, who in your network should I be talking to? It's a bit like a pyramid scheme. And it's interesting, some of the best people have come into us through that route, just asking that question. So I suppose what I'm trying to say is, good leadership is always not having to hog the limelight, not knowing all the answers, and sharing their network too, and being able to be open and say, very happy to intro you and let X know that we want a conversation with you. So being generous, that's what I see.
What I do, this being generous. I'm going to throw some other words in that Mark and I've learned: generous, collaborative. thoughtful, authentic. Mark, what do you think? Will that make us and those external people better leaders?
Yeah, no, I think so, and it's all about relationships, isn't it? It's all about understanding individuals and building trust with those people that you've got something in common, and you're all somehow working towards a similar kind of goal and output. And then once you're building those relationships, it's leveraging those relationships to help connect and widen and push things forward. But I think the key thing, like you said, Laura, is you don't suddenly have to have a networking event. So it's built connecting with a couple of people and becoming comfortable with that, and then working it forward as you move forward.
Is, and it might well be, you think, I want to get 6 new people in my network, and I'm going to take between now and year end to get those 6, because what you don't want to do is connect with one and then say, oh yeah, I'd love to check in with you again next month, and then not for it to happen. And that's why the investment in time is really important, and keeping it small allows you to deliver. The other bit of good leadership that I've seen is Tara McCarthy. She was CEO of Board Beer and is now moved over to Alltech. And she was speaking at one of our events, and I asked her, how do you find time to network? You know, you're moving so quickly, and, you know, and she was really open about, do you know what, I didn't used to be very good at it. I didn't used to dedicate time. Now I do, because I know I learn something new from every single interaction. And it's that learning mindset and open mindset that we see from great leaders, not trying to know it all, being really open and dedicating the time.
Well done. And team, just going back a little bit. I've just had a question from WhatsApp. We've spoken in the last 2-3 years with the broadcast that we do with the AHDB and other broadcasts about mentoring, and how it's really great to have a mentor. One of my contacts has just said, explain the rules of mentoring. That I think there's a slight naivety with the younger generation, that they think that they can approach someone like yourself, Laura, and they'll be able to sit down with you every week for 2 hours, and they'll be able to tell you everything about family issues, or where they want to go career-wise, or where would you go on holiday, and that's not the purpose of a mentor. That's I love what you said earlier, Laura, about with your personal board, that you would engage with them for 2 hours, say a year, and you've obviously got the intellectual horsepower to be able to take that nugget of what you learned from that 2-hour interaction, and to use it as a stepping stone to go the next way through. Laura, would you agree that if you're going to look to approach a mentor, don't over engage with them, don't overload them, because they're going to be so busy, and they're going to have a number of people approaching them, so they might want to be selective. What would be your advice to, say, especially the younger generation, if they're looking to adopt this personal board, this mentor approach, how they should engage and how they should present it to a potential mentor? What would your advice be, please?
Yeah, I think be really clear on your ask, and be really both in terms of time and topic, and what you want to get out of it. So I think if someone came to with you every week, I just couldn't do it. I haven't got the time. But if someone came and said, these are the specifics I want to talk to you about, and it's 2 hours a year, then actually that's a different conversation. So I think mutually agreeing what the parameters of that mentoring is going to be, and it's for the mentee to make sure that they do all the running. They set up the meetings, they come with a strong agenda, and make sure that they get the best possible out of that mentor. As soon as and I've been in a few relationships in terms of mentee, mentor, and we run a mentoring service on Meet Business Women on our website. And where we see it comes disconnected is when the balance tips into the mentor chasing for the meeting or chasing for the agenda, then that's where it becomes disconnected. And that might be because the match isn't quite there anymore, or the mentee needs to take some time out. But I think being really open from the get-go about what you want to get out of that relationship. Yeah, well, it's like any other relationship. You need to be really clear from the get-go. And even probably have a contract, sounds too strong a word, but bullet points on an email. These are the 5 things that we're going to do over the next year. And if we fail on any of these, then we'll stop.
Brilliant. So we're running out of time. We didn't say earlier that Mark is on a great visit. Mark, just tell us where you are this morning. Where are you going this afternoon? Show off for us.
So today with the AHDB, we're on farm. as a whole organisation. So today I'm at Pilkington Farms with Matt Pilkington and his family in just outside of Daventry, looking at his, well, I'm not looking at the dairy unit, the rest of the team are looking at the dairy unit, having an understanding of the dairy business. And then this afternoon we're heading somewhere to James Hendrick to look at his beef and sheep farm, to get a bit more insight into what we serve and do for our levy payers.
Excellent. Mark, what are you going to tell everyone this afternoon on the back of what we've learned from Laura? There you go.
So, do you want me to? So it's the key things that we talked about earlier, and I think it starts small and align some people that you really want to get under the skin with, that could, I suppose, quite crudely, that you can nick a bit of insight from them and learn from them that have inspired you to push forward and just put your big girl, big boy, whatever pants on, which I know I have to do that. I'm crap at networking. Sorry to swear.
He's very sweary today, Laura.
I'm not very good at doing that. I don't like standing in front of people. Give me some detail and something to plan, and that's where I find myself very, very comfortable. But I can do those things that I'm not comfortable doing, but I just have to prepare myself to dial up to do that. And that might be the case with networking. We look at Talking Leaders as a series. I've harvested a lot of great and wonderful speakers through delving into my network, but also approaching people on LinkedIn and going, "Hi, Mark, this is what I do. I'd really like to have a chat with you and learn a bit about what you do." And you'll be amazing. I was very surprised how many people go, "Yeah, I'll give you 10 minutes, 15 minutes to have a chat over the phone." And before you know it, they're a guest, and then they're leading you to other people.
Yeah, Laura, Mark is underselling himself as normal, because he's been to a number of TEDx events within the UK and gone and doorstep speakers afterwards on a networking basis, and hence why we've ended up with the likes of Olympic skiers and people walked up Everest and your good self. So Laura, we learned so much from you today. You're gonna sum up for us, Laura, just from my perspective. The two main things I've got down are be from yourself, are being bold and brave, and have a personal board. Laura, wrap up for us. What's the success of building a global network? What can we learn from you, please? What's the key to success?
I think the key to success is being happy and doing something that you love and enjoy, and making your day job fun again. And also financially viable. Let's be honest, we need to push our businesses forward, and those that are watching this are key leaders in industry, and we want you to survive and thrive. So I think for me, that's been the personal benefit. I enjoy what I'm doing, and it gives me the life that I want, which is really fantastic. Excellent. I guess in terms of those takeaways, it's about starting small. It's about making sure you're curious and you listen when you have those conversations. It's about being bold and brave, as you say, Max. And it's making time, dedicate the time, and be authentic. And all of that, those 5 things will wrap up into a personal board and then a wider network. Think about where your energy comes from and find your tribe.
Boom. Laura, thank you. You're absolutely fantastic. And it's amazing to have someone, and I'm obviously being completely genuine about this, having someone who's on the front page of the Grocer magazine on this broadcast today. Mark, anything else to summarize?
No, thank you very much, Laura. It's been really, really good. And you've covered some really, really good points to start that journey and push forward. So thank you very much for your time. And if anybody would like any more information on what we do in the AgriLeader program, please just look on the website, ahdb.org.uk/AgriLeader, and please subscribe and get involved in our little community and keep pushing things forward.
And thank you, Mark. Just to sum up, WhatsApp just saying, Laura's brilliant, Mark is brilliant. Max, can you be replaced by the puppy ongoing? So there you go.
Yeah, we'll have to talk to the chairman.
No worries. I think it's very expensive. Laura, Mark, thank you very much. Mark, enjoy the beach trip this afternoon. Laura, we look forward to the ongoing success you're going to create. Well done.
Thank you. Take care.
Have a lovely day. Have a good day. Thank you.